Today, we are going to be handling common mistakes you should avoid when answering some of the top 5 frequent asked questions in a Scrum Master interview. What are these questions? And later, we are going to discuss what are the mistakes many people make. The first mistake, or the first question, let me give you the questions first. The first question: how long should you hold a sprint planning? Right. We're going to answer this question. Then I'm going to highlight a mistake a lot of people make. The second question: how do you handle changing requirement in the middle of a sprint as a Scrum Master? The third question: tell me a time you have failed as a Scrum Master. The fourth question: give me a scenario of a conflict you've had with the PO or with the manager, and how did you handle that? And the fifth question: tell me a time, or how do you handle, or tell me a time where your team has not completed their work, or did not complete the work they committed to during the sprint, and what you did as a Scrum Master to handle this. Welcome to the Scrum chat room with Dr. Francis Simbunya. And just a couple of days, we are going to be in the middle of 2023. And have you actually been struggling to get a Scrum job and still procrastinating? You should stop doing that and get yourself situated in a community that's going to help you build more trust, build more confidence, and give you the hope that your job is just around the corner. And good enough for many people who have been waiting is the middle of the year, and we have some discounts for those who want to get a Scrum job. If you're preparing to you're already certified, preparing to get into the market, yeah, you can reach out. We have some good discount for you right now. For those who are interested in starting the Scrum career, it's also a good time. It's middle of the year. We're super happy, and we want to give you access to our premium community only for those who are confident that they can make it, right? So that's why we actually do interviews before giving people access to our community. Now, without wasting much time, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, before I forget, our next program is going to start on the 2nd of June. So you probably want to get into that mid-year session. Okay, let's go ahead and handle the questions for today. How long should you hold a sprint planning? Right. This question is asked to you as an interview. And a common mistake a lot of people often make is that, a sprint planning should be between 1 hour and 2 hours. Or if they want to go by the Scrum guide, it's like, sprint planning should be about 4 hours or between about 4 hours, depending on. Now, the reason why this is a common mistake is because remember, you are responding as someone who has experience. So, what is the best way to respond to this question? You give an exact number. In my previous environment, in my most recent position, my sprint planning was 1 hour. And this is because we constantly had a backlog refinement meeting. So this actually give us an advantage not to have a long session during our sprint planning. You close it there. So it's about a fact. All right. Now, the second question we want to handle today: how do you handle changing requirement in the middle of a sprint as a Scrum Master? All right. So now, a common mistake a lot of people made in answering this question is that they say, okay, I remember in my last position, my PO or manager will obviously send in more work in the middle of the sprint. What I did is that I coached them on the importance of keeping scope and the importance of not adding scope when we start, and then we came to an agreement. Okay, why is it a common mistake? Remember, you are a servant leader. And the way a servant leader approach, that's a resistance, that is an anti-pattern. Approach an anti-pattern is not to assume that you know the answer and you're coaching someone to get the answer, right? So we often say that, I met with them, I coached them, and then everything was fine. No, that's not how things work. Okay. Okay. So when you have that scenario, remember you're dealing with management, and management, the goal of management is to get work done. They're not so much interested about scope and scope creep, and they're more interested about what work is delivered. We want to know what work is delivered. So what's the best way to answer this question? Now, the best way to answer this question, number one, is to meet the interviewer where they are. And how do we meet them where they are? All right. This one thing that we cannot completely avoid is scope changing during a Scrum event or when we're using Agile. Number one, because Agile itself admit that we accept changes in requirement even late in the project, right? So we already expect that. So when there is change in scope, when there's constant change in scope, what I do is that I meet my PO or my manager exactly where they are, trying to understand why the scope is constantly changing, and then look for what are some of the possible ways that we can do to minimize this. And then we all come to an agreement. Now, if you want to be very exact on this and use a specific case study, you can say, yes, I had this scenario in my environment. Now, I meet with the PO to understand why are there constant change in our requirement, most especially when we start working on issues. And the PO explained to me that it's a new product we are working on, and most often we're not too clear about what is the expectation of the stakeholders. We still try as much as possible to educate them on this, and this is why we keep on having this shift. But this is something we are working forward to accommodate. Now, with that knowledge, I understand that they're already taking an action. So I just needed to educate my team to be well prepared on this. And because of this, we actually left out some time for buffer to see how we can readjust constantly to this scope, given that it was the nature of the project. All right. Question number 3. Tell me a time you failed as a Scrum Master. This is a difficult one, right? This is a difficult one right here. And now you always want to pay forward. Right. You cannot say, oh, a time I failed as a Scrum Master is a time um I did not attend the spring planning because I was very sick and I did not inform my team that I'm going to be absent and all of that. Right. So this is a very tricky question. The reason they ask this question is to understand your strength and your weaknesses. Right. So this question, what my perfect answer for you, I'm going to give a disclaimer. I will not admit that there's been a time I failed, right? Remember, leaders don't fail, they learn from situation. So I always say, thank you for that question. Although I'm not a Superman, but what I try as much as possible to avoid is to accept that I actually failed, right? There have been situations I learn from and I grow within. For instance, one of the scenario which my team struggled with in the past was keeping track of impediments that were being discussed during daily stand up. Now, when I noticed that this issue started coming up over and over again, and my team members would constantly repeat the same stuff over and over again, I often noticed that I needed to do something to step up in order to uh, get them to a position where they can be able to track what they have been working on in terms of impediment, even for the last 1 month. So I went ahead and created a conference page which we could document this impediment and constantly follow up with them, see which one are resolved, see which one are in progress, and take possible action with them. And that also helped us to have more items we could discuss with during our retrospective. Now, with this question, remember, I did not admit that I failed. I gave a scenario and how we learn from it, right? So don't want to say, oh, yeah, there's been a time I failed as a Scrum Master. No, successful people don't fail. They learn from opportunity. And when you paint this scenario, trust me, you are going to buy the mind of your interviewer. Question number 4. Um, Tell me a time you had a conflict with a PO or with leadership or with management, and how did you resolve this? Now, this is a no-go section. All right. Why do I say this is a no-go session? Just a secret. Most managers or most POs are more from a management perspective. So they have that leadership and authoritative voice that's going to come most often as you wanting to pull resistance. So the reason they want to ask this question is to see what you consider as conflict or not, right? So this is a question you should not even accept that there has been a moment, right? And what is the rationale for not accepting? As a leader, you need to create a healthy environment for conflict, which means that you don't see conflict as blocking point, but you see them as opportunity to grow. So the way I'm going to answer this question is like, I've definitely not been in a situation where I made to fight with my manager or the PO or have conflict with them. But then most often we need to understand ourselves because we might be talking from different point of view. I'm gonna give you an example. There was a scenario where we're looking forward on what is the buffer or what is an acceptable buffer for the team, right? Meanwhile, we were considering a 20% buffer, but then management was like, no, we cannot assign up to 20% for buffer. We need to deliver 100%, right? Although that might seem like a conflict, but to me, it was not. Why? Because this is an opportunity for us to get to understand why certain things are being done. And when we actually had to meet with the manager and then explain the rationale behind the 20% and what is being done and how it adds value to the team and to the overall productivity of the team, that you say, oh wow, now and now see a reason why you have to set aside this time for your team, because yes, this is what we expect you to deliver. This is the quality. And if this time is used for this, it is worth it. Right. So in that case, I did not just say no and stay quiet. I said no, but then I went ahead to give about what angle do you look at conflict with management. You're often, most of the time, going to disagree, especially when you want to really help your team push through. All right. From a coaching point of view, you are seeing value in helping your team gain time, right? That they can use and reflect, grow on themselves. From a management perspective, management is seeing that as no, this is time that should be invested in doing work. Why are you putting it aside, right? So that is a perfect scenario. But the way I painted it, you can see it from that angle. And question number 5 is, tell me about the time where your team did not meet up with your goal, the sprint goal, and how you handle that. This is a question on what we call a scope creep, right? Or spillover. Let's take it from that angle. Now, from this angle, what are you doing? From this angle, what they want to know is they want to see if you have the ability to help a team effectively plan their work, what they need to commit to, and what they should be delivering. So, from this point of view, you should not say that, oh, yeah, I remember a time where we overcommitted and we could not deliver. That is a very fatal mistake. If you say you overcommitted, what are you saying? As a Scrum Master, I don't know or I cannot advise my team to commit to the right amount of work. So because of that, you've already exposed your weakness. But then, can a team, does a team, or should you accept that your team constantly spill over work? Yes, it's normal for most Scrum team. Right. But then you can say, yeah, sometime it happened, and you give the reason. It happens because sometimes we might have more scope being added from management. In that case, we need to reprioritize our sprint backlog, and because of that, we have to run through some spillover. Also, I have scenario where a team member actually fall sick or take an urgent vacation, And because of that, the work that they committed spill over. Although we had some buffer time, but that was not enough to handle all of the time because the team was already fully committed to well, the team was already at their max capacity, right? Worst case scenario can also be these are situations that are rare, that the definition of done changes in the middle of the work. And the definition of done can change if you have a new vendor that needs you to do things differently. Definition of done can also change if the market situation change and they need to repivot the whole product you're working on. All right. So I hope this was helpful. If you need more of this, not just by listening, but by being in our team where we are coaching you, we're helping you to look at how you can close that position in less than no time. You want to reach out to us. It's a happy mid-year, and we're having some really good discounts that can help you put your head. All right. Happy midweek, and I see you in the next video.